torchbearer of democracy in the Western world. And how fitting that this nation, raised on revolutionary expectations of equality, should take the most democratic of all beverages to heart.
Joe.
Joe, the common man's name for the Dutch 17th century trader's name for my favorite brew, coffee.
Coffee is an Ethiopian fruit, first drunk by Christian abbots and Muslim Sufis from the 10th century onwards. An auspicious sign, if ever there was one, that this was going to be the drink that would break all boundaries, religious, social, political, and economic.
Coffee is the lifeblood of farmers throughout Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The daily cup of aristocrats, hipsters, the working man and woman. Everybody's been captivated by its aromatic charms and its slightly bitter pleasures. Yeah, Joe's become a worldwide phenomenon, employing tens of millions of people around the globe and raining manna from heaven on small coffee roasters and large corporations alike.
Oh yes, coffee is the largest trading commodity in the world after oil. It's a $40 billion industry. 380 million cups are quaffed by Americans every day.
A symbol of our revolution against the tea-taxing Brits. This is the drink that defines America. I'm Dean Sycon, coffee roaster and social entrepreneur.
And I'm Judith Jones, gourmet travelista and roving reporter. And together, we're going to tell you the story of how coffee conquered America.
Or how America conquered coffee.
Boston, one of America's oldest cities, it was the coffee hub of 18th century colonial America. Although it was the Dutch who first brought the bean over to our promised land 100 years earlier, to New Amsterdam, now known as New York. However, as soon as the English Puritans started to settle New England, coffee found its adopted home.
But it tasted awful. Sailed across the Atlantic and up the Hudson on musty sailing ships, down in the hold with casks of wine, tarred rigging, and rats. New England Puritans would never have liked the taste of coffee, but like the British excrement, it steeled the mind and energized the body. Puritans working the soil in the promised land would allow coffee to achieve a legitimacy that alcohol never could. It's hard to believe, but before there was a Dunkin' Donuts, before there was a Starbucks, and 150 years before the American Revolution, colonial folks started their day in a tavern like this, hoisting a mug of beer or ale. Puritans though they were, they drank beer or ale because it was a better bet than water, which was unsafe.
The taverns of British America became integral to consolidating settlement life. They were places to drink, eat and sleep, rest your horses, read the daily news, and sell your crops. As more and more colonists visited these inns, coffee was added to the menu, and there was a good reason why.
The Puritans did not take kindly to inebriation. In fact, they fined anyone who was even remotely drunk. They hired innkeepers who were paragons of sobriety, women mostly, because they weren't allowed to drink, and they kept their menfolk on good behavior. Give them a cup of Joe and send them off to work.
The Boston Tea Party, a cataclysmic event that sealed Britain's fate and assured coffee's fortunes in America. It took place here on the waters of Boston Harbor.
Coffee entered the American vernacular the night a group of angry Bostonians dressed up as Mohawk Indians and boarded an East India Company clipper. They hurled $1 million worth of tea into Boston Harbor. It was December 1773, and after this event, coffee became the drink of patriots. So I'm down here in Boston Harbor where the Tea Party took place, and I just want to talk to a couple local folks and see what they think about the event. Hey, how you doing?
Doing good.
So listen, let me ask you a question. What do you think of the Boston Tea Party?
The Republican Tea Party?
No, the original Boston Tea Party.
Original Tea Party? All I know is the Indians or something on a boat and they were throwing tea bags over.
Where'd that happen?
They didn't have
Somewhere
tea
over
bags.
there.
It was tea bags.
They didn't have
Thousands of
tea
tea
bags.
I don't know.
Okay.
That's all I know. I didn't learn that in school.
What do you know about the Boston Tea Party?
They were protesting something.
Okay. Do you know what they were protesting?
I think it has something to do with taxes.
Yeah, they dumped the tea cascades into the sea.
The whole shipload was dumped into the harbor rather than
Being taxed?
being taxed or something like that.
Well, it was part of the revolution.
Did you know that after the Boston Tea Party, America stopped drinking tea and turned to coffee? Because that's when we said to England, take your tea and stuff
Yeah,
it. We're
right,
going for a
exactly.
good cup of joe.
Protest, right?
there we
Yeah,
go.
protest.
So coffee is independence.
Yeah.
Coffee's a lot stronger.
So
that's
that's
why
probably why it's so
that's why all
symbolic.
Americans are all hyper.
Are you a tea drinker or a coffee drinker?
Neither. I drink only water.
America's resort to revolutionary action against the British Crown came to a head in Boston's downtown meeting house. In these hallowed pilgrim halls, angry colonials vented their spleens on a tea tax levied by His Majesty's government to pay for a mounting national debt, an expensive 7-year war with France, and shoring up the sagging fortunes of the multinational British East India Company. So, we poor American subjects took to voicing our protest in here while we were boycotting the object of our immense dissatisfaction, that bloody drink, tea.
In fact, one of the meetings the sheriff came to, and the sheriff had a proclamation from the governor. This is an illegal gathering. So he is allowed to come in and read this. The crowd is silent, and then the crowd simply hisses. Imagine having 6,000 people hiss at you.
Wow.
What a sound that would make. That resounded. The sheriff left. He didn't have any part of this. And of course now we see, hey, we've gotten the sheriff out of here, where the tea merchants want to have the provincial government take possession of the tea. The tea is sitting on ships in Boston Harbor. We don't want to have any part of this. Later on, actually, in Annapolis, a fellow brings a ship in, the Peggy Stewart. Unbeknownst to him, he said, someone had put 17 cases of tea. And he is afraid they're going to tear down his house because they're so outraged at the tea. So he has to go aboard his own ship and set it on fire to show everyone, I'm not bringing in any tea. Not only that, destroying 17 cases of tea plus this ship. His loss would be close to $1 million he lost by burning the ship, but he thought it was well worth it. Otherwise, he thought he would lose his life.
What's the moment here where things explode?
Under British law, you have 20 days for a ship can come into port and leave port without paying taxes. After 20 days, the tax has to be paid. So everyone knows that. December 17th is the date by which the tax has to be paid. On the night of December 16th, the crowd gathers here, and the emissary goes to ask if Governor Hutchinson will allow the ships to sail. He won't. They come back with this message, and Samuel Adams in the pulpit says, this meeting can do nothing more to save the country. And with that, from the balcony, there's a war whoop. And out in the street, there's a war whoop as about 150 men from the Green Dragon Tavern, from Eads and Gill's printing shop, and from a carpenter shop now converge on this scene dressed as Mohawk Indians. They have blankets over their heads. Their faces are smeared with paint so no one will recognize them. And they make their way down to the docks, and the crowd begins following them.
That sounds pre-planned. I mean, these guys just weren't hanging around dressed as Indians for no reason.
No, they knew that this was coming. So this is a very well-organized thing. These are the Sons of Liberty, and they're dock workers, they're longshoremen, guys who would gather in taverns and in coffee shops, and they knew one another, and so they're responsible for making sure none of the tea is unloaded. So they've been studying the ships now for 20 days. It's a very well-organized, well-coordinated thing. And John Adams says, I don't know who any of these Mohawks were, and I don't want to know. And he calls this a sublime moment. He says this is an epic in history.
Yeah, but it didn't really start here. This was the meeting house. The planning started in the coffee houses and the taverns around Boston. That's
Right.
where revolution gets fomented. So
Yes.
what were some of the places here in Boston?
Well, the Bunch of Grapes Tavern, or the Green Dragon, Red Lion.
Yep.
And then coffee houses like the Exchange Coffee House or the London Coffee House.
So there were a lot of places where small groups of men and women were meeting and
Yes.
talking about a revolution.
Exactly, because the governor can suppress a big public meeting happening here, but if 20 guys are getting together at a tavern, they're just having a drink.
What are they drinking?
Well, they might have been drinking a lot of rum, and they also would have been drinking coffee. And this is a tradition that's going to continue, these gathering places where Men are getting together to talk about ideas. And
Over coffee.
over coffee.
This is interesting because this parallels what was going on actually in the Arabian Peninsula as well. In the coffee houses of Mecca, people got together and they would discuss the issues of the day and get all jazzed up and foment dissent. And in fact, the revolt against the governor of Mecca started in a coffee house, just like our American Revolution seems to have started in the coffee houses of Boston.
That is, and people get together and coffee clarifies the way you're thinking. And here, of course, we're listening to the minister. In Mecca, you're listening to the imam. But if you're in a coffee house, you are listening to each other.
Or not listening to each other.
Exactly.
Right,
Even
okay.
better.
The very first coffee house in America started right here in Boston in 1689. Here at the Green Dragon Tavern, red-coated British officials, bewigged colonial governors, all sorts of people met. Patriots from the Boston Tea Party sat and debated. That's why Daniel Webster called the Green Dragon Tavern the headquarters of the American Revolution. Now wait a second, I'm gonna go have a cup of coffee and start a revolution. Hey, anybody want to talk about uprisings and injustice around here? Bloody limeys.
After the Tea Party, drinking coffee became an act of patriotism, and as America entered a 19th century steam-powered by industrial progress, coffee became appropriately democratized, readily available to the masses. Over to Judith.
The legend is again that the Boston Tea Party is what turns Americans to coffee. It's a little bit more complicated than that. It's true, at the time of the revolution, some of the leading revolutionaries said, well, we should stop drinking tea because the British have these really high taxes on tea, and of course there's the famous incident in Boston in 1773 when they get on the ships and throw all the tea in the harbour. What really turns America famous to coffee is when there are changes in the way that coffee who start roasting coffee and also grinding coffee and then packing it in cans. Now, because they can seal it into the can, they can distribute it across America. Who start roasting coffee and also grinding the coffee and then packing it in cans. Now, because they can seal it into the can, they can distribute it across America. So at the time, there are two things that are going on that really make that important. One is the Civil War. Because the soldiers really need something to keep them awake. Boy, they have to be awake. Cowboys and fighting, so they use coffee. So this kind of, early packaged coffee is so that really grows the coffee market. And the second thing, of course, is all those people traveling to the West, the cowboys and so forth, are using this kind of packaged coffee out on the range. So that really grows the coffee market, if you like, and the expansion of coffee. And coffee really becomes an American drink.
Exploring the frontiers and waging a war across borders took young Americans out into the wilderness. And with such vigorous activities, coffee was the soldiers, the cowboys, and the frontiersmen's best friend, especially when served hot besides a campfire at the end of a grueling day. The U.S. Army had seen the galvanizing powers of a caffeine hit, and its consumption became an essential part of a soldier's diet even before the Civil War of 1861.
Every soldier, giving him the strength to fight. Or as one 30 years earlier, President Andrew Jackson made sugar it was certainly coffee cheaper than the daily ration of every soldier, the advent of the giving him the strength to fight. Their steel or as one commentator said, happiness and moral courage allowed the coffee to remain certainly cheaper than a gill of whiskey and not have that musty smell. The advent of the steamship and the railroad packaging, steel paper bags, instead of their smelly wooden transported across the country by commissary officers, fresh longer and not have that musty smell. An innovation in packaging, the paper bag, allowed coffee to be transported across the country by commissary officers. And the method of dividing them was nothing short of a sacred ritual. Each soldier was given 1/10 of a pound of green beans as a daily ration, and the method of dividing them was nothing short of a sacred ritual. Each soldier would take his green coffee and roast them and grind them as needed to keep the coffee fresh. Campfire, and each company had a portable grinder. It was coffee after a long day of marching and battle. Coffee soldiers would come and slump down by the campfire and get warm. It was coffee as often as possible. It was coffee before meals, coffee during meals and coffee after meals. And if you were standing guard, it was coffee as often as possible. Who goes there?
Packing techniques developed around the time of the Civil War were refined further in the early 20th century with mechanization until the next great coffee innovation.
Who gets to make the coffee in your house? Well, you know, more often than not, when it's coffee time in this household, I get to make it. Of course, the fact that my wife lets me make the coffee tells you how amazing the coffee in your house must be. Well, you know, more often than not, when it's coffee time in this household, now you can see it's not a powder, not a grind either. My wife lets me make the coffee tells you how amazing instant Maxwell House must be. Real coffee. It's a completely different kind of flavor buds burst. Now you can see it's not a powder, the moment you pour it in grind either, but millions of tiny hollow flavor buds of real coffee. Last drop. Now these miracle flavor buds burst instantly the moment you pour it in that is real coffee. Flooding the instant with that wonderful, the amazing coffee discovery flavor. I want to tell you that is real coffee. Instant Maxwell House, the amazing coffee discovery.
We've come a long way since the 1950s in cultivating our taste buds.
Instant coffee craze. But go back 100 years ago, and this was the hit of the new century. Instant coffee, who brought it to the masses. Several inventors tried to get in on the instant coffee craze. Cup of George. But it was a guy named George Constant Lewis Washington who brought it to the masses. Therefore the name, Cup of George.
George Washington invented his instant coffee brew in 1910, and it played a big part in keeping American soldiers alert to the demands of battle in World War I. Our soldiers then took Instant's biggest brand, Nescafe, to Europe fighting a Second World War, and for the first time, America's tasteless coffee became a global brand. The war also gave coffee a new name, Joe, after the nickname for the U.S. fighting man, G.I. Joe. Thankfully, Luigi Bizzarra's Gaggia espresso machine, a 1900s electrical marvel, hissing steam and refined brewing, was at hand
It would be
to
fair to
spare
say
Italy and
Italians
Europe
are
from
passionate
instant
about
coffee's
their coffee.
malevolent spell.
So much so, you
Judith
would think
explores
they
the
had
wonder
discovered
that's
it.
the Gaggia.
Well, they didn't, but they have invented a coffee. It would be fair to say Italians are passionate about their coffee. So much so, you would think they had discovered it. Considered by many they didn't, but they have invented a coffee culture unequal to anywhere else in the world. Over the last 50 years, espresso has been considered by many to be the best coffee to drink.
This is the fire mustard.
With more than 20 years in the business, Italian Marco Arrigo has become one of the UK's most respected authorities on coffee. I catch up with Marco at his café Bar Termini in Soho, where he serves an excellent range of Italian coffees.
In Italy, it's all about the espresso. The espresso is an amplification of the coffee. It's an exaggeration. It's a chemical reaction. It's the base of all the other drinks. If you get the espresso right, then all the other drinks are going to be right. And this is the Fiamma 61, made in 1961. This coffee machine revolutionised coffee. Before this machine, all the coffee machines used to boil water, push it through the coffee, and used to burn the coffee. This machine was a lot softer, a lot cooler, and it used to have a wonderful system where it would move the water around internally, and so it would never burn the coffee. It was really, really forgiving. It never made a bad coffee. This is an authentic Italian espresso.
Looks good. Ah, buonissimo.
Now we're going to make the bianco and the latte. The bianco is our version. It's like an exaggerated macchiato. And you can see, we'll just stop it there. We've got that really thick, lovely espresso that we made earlier. And it's going to be the base of both drinks. We split the milk. And the hot milk goes into the latte. And the foam becomes the bianco.
Beautiful.
Yeah, try that.
Let's try it. You definitely know the way to my heart.
This is like drinking a tennis ball full of air, and it aerates your palate and it takes you in one direction. Whereas this one's the latte, which is the milk with no foam, and the customers pour them themselves.
Oh, I love that.
You see?
I do love a good latte.
So So that rounds them all off. From these 3 drinks, we make 2,000 different recipes. You can put a banana in it, you can put caramel in it, you can make it long, you can make it short, but the basics are here, and this is the basics. It's all about mouthfeel.
Simple but delicious.
Thank you.
America didn't yet enjoy the benefits of the espresso machine. It had instant coffee and delivered it in the most iconic of culinary establishments. The diner is to Americans what the Italian cafe is to Europeans, though possibly the coffee in Italy tastes a little better. Thank you, Amber.
You're welcome.
She knows the way I like it. But our cup of joe is the symbol of a former luxury commodity that's become our nation's favorite hot beverage, rounding out the coffee craze that began with the Boston Tea Party. Mass production, instant coffee, the diner, we call this the first wave. The diner is a New England phenomenon. Its design evolved throughout the transformative years of the 20th century until it achieved its iconic look. The Art Deco exterior, stained glass windows in this stainless steel shell, the 1950s neon lights. You can still find diners on state highways across the country or in small towns and cities where the locals have kept alive this incredible tradition. The American Diner was established in Rhode Island in 1872 as a lunch wagon for night shift workers and late-night gamblers. Yep, this is where the cup of joe got entrenched into the American subconscious. The idea evolved into the 24-hour joint, serving cheap homemade food and replacing the tavern as the local meeting place. The diner became the pub of the New World.
Good morning.
Hey, how's it going?
All right.
What are you drinking?
Oh, that New England flavored coffee stuff there. What do you got in your cup?
I got diner coffee.
Oh, that's why it tastes like it does. It's diner coffee.
It's diner coffee.
I think we should head down the road to Dunkin' Donut myself and go get us a real coffee. But
you're a Dunkin' Donuts guy, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Everybody's got their opinion, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's to you.
When you want a good cup of joe, Dunkin' Donuts is the way to go.
Okay. The diner seems to take us back to square one again. Unremarkable coffee, wholesome, fulfilling food, all designed for basic functionality and expediency. We Americans like to work hard, and we got to start our day and get going. The challenge of later 20th century America was, now that you've got a nation hooked on cup of joe, how do you persuade them to move on to something tastier, more authentic? Honest Joe, not your average Joe. Seattle's got the bluest sky in the country. Then there's the other 12 months of the year. But hey, it's the coffee capital